got married there.
What? How did you meet her again?
Huh?
How did you meet her again?
Oh, well, I was sent down. I had about 6 months to go in the service after the war, and
So the war was already over.
huh?
The war was already over.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was. Yeah, it ended, and so I got back to the States. I was over in the Philippines when it ended, and I got back to the States, and I had a 45-day furlough because I'd been over there a long time. And so after the furlough, they sent me orders through the mail to report down to Fort Knox. So I never been to Fort Knox, Kentucky. You know, I didn't know what I was getting into, but I had to go. You know, so I went down there, and I was trying to make friends. You know, because I didn't know nobody down there.
Dinosaur.
I got off the bus, and then I caught another bus that goes down to Fort Knox. Fort Knox was about 30 miles out of Louisville. And I went there, and then, so I was trying to make friends, and so everybody seemed to follow the guy that had the car, you know. So I went with him one time.
She said, "Give me the auntie."
Here.
All right. Come on.
Oh, give me a kissy kiss.
Ah,
Aww. Everybody wants a turn.
yeah.
I'll lay on him.
Alright, sweets, come get your jammies on, please.
So anyway, these guys
No, don't go.
went to Louisville, and they were real heavy drinkers.
Don't.
And I was not a drinker, you know. And the first place they stopped, they'd been going up there quite a while, you know. I just brand new. I just got down there, and they all ordered Boilermakers around. This guy says, "Give us Boilermakers around." And I thought, what the hell is a Boilermaker, you know? Well, that's beer and booze and everything mixed together. And I couldn't drink mine, you know. I'm not a drinker. And so I just kind of, you know, went along with it, you know, just to be friends. And so this one guy, we went over to another club, and they had gambling in this club. And I'd never been in a gambling before. My dad always told me, you know, that he doesn't believe in gambling. And I want you to get in the Army, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to get into that. But I wouldn't recommend it, so I try to keep clear of that stuff, you know. But anyway, that was the first crap table I ever saw. They had this table in this club, and they had playing craps. And this one guy asked me to borrow $20. And I was trying to make friends and everything. I thought, well, okay. And I gave him the $20, and he put it on the craps table. And he told me if he won, you know, he would split the money with me. Well, he didn't win. He lost my money. Never did get it back. But anyway.
I remember. You know who used to comb your
So
mom's
anyway,
hair?
I got acquainted with this guy. He was from
She was
Chicago,
great.
kind of heavy set guy. He said, "Ah, I met this chick
Because
down
she
here in
thought-
this down here
remember
at the
you always thought
drugstore."
that Mom
I
was
said, "Oh, you
too
did,
rough.
yeah."
So you
She says, "Let's go down there and I'll find out if she's got a friend, you know, make a
Mama was
double
too
date."
rough on your mommy's
I
hair,
said, "Okay."
so I got to comb.
And so we went down there, and your grandma was there at the cashier's table or desk.
Oh, I miss those days.
And she was reading a book, you know. That she just loved to read books.
And do you remember what she was wearing? Do you remember what she was wearing?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I never noticed what it was, but it was a book, a soft cover book, and she was sitting there and taking the money and reading the book. I remember what she wore.
What is that?
It was a white dress and had ruffled seals around it, you know. Yeah, it was a white dress.
Good sign if you remember something.
And so I went over to the bar, and got me a Coke, you know. I didn't want to sit down there in their conversation, you know, that's like butting in, and went over there. So he spent a little while up there talking to her, and so finally I finished my drink, and I walked up there, and he introduced me to her. And this is my buddy from the camp, and so she told him that, yeah, we could go out. If you want to come by after she get off from work,
Oh my goodness, there's a fox
take
on
her
my
out
face.
for
There's a fox on my
a
face.
snack and
Did you see
a
that
beer
fox?
or
Did you
something
see
like
him?
that,
I
or
don't
a
know where
drink,
he
he
went.
said.
Not kidding you. It was on my
And
face.
so
Barbie, did you
she
see
said,
that fox?
okay, she talked to this girl
on my
that
face.
lived in the same apartment house they did.
There it is, there it is.
And
there
she
it is.
did.
Oh my gosh, this
So we
is
went
it.
over there,
Oh,
and
help.
I had
Got
my
it
car down there.
off.
Everybody
Got it off. Oh, it's
goes
on my
for
face,
the
it's
guy
on
that's
my
got
face,
the
it's on
car,
my
you know.
face. Help me.
And we
Stay
went
close,
to
stay
out there. She told us, well, she lived on 35th Street,
Mm-hmm.
right off of Broadway. So I knew that much about the place. So we went out there and picked her up, and the other girl. And the other girl got in the front seat. She was supposed to be with me. And I noticed her hands were all yellow, you know. And I said, what happened to your hands? She said, I work in a tobacco company.
Oh my gosh.
And that's
oh my gosh,
nicotine.
there's a fox on your face.
Stained nicotine. It stains your hands when you got
Got
to
him off your face.
handle the
I'll
tobacco.
save you. He won't come
So I
back.
thought, oh,
I'm not kidding you.
okay.
I'm not letting him in this
And so we went out and had
No idea where he came from.
a bite. And right away, your grandma kind of picked up on me, you know, hit me behind, kind of floating around, you know. And I was trying to play it straight, you know. I was supposed to be with this guy. Yeah, so anyway, I saw that gleam in her eye, you know.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
And
Barbie?
so we got,
Are you all right? Because you're my bestest
we
friend.
took the girls back home,
I
and
know
we
what
went back to
happened
camp.
to you.
And I was asking him about the girl. I said, how many times you been out with her?
Did he
Oh,
scratch you?
a couple of times maybe, not very many
Kisses and
times.
scratches make it better.
I said, well, it seemed like a nice girl. She said, yeah, she's a real nice girl.
Get off of her.
And
You old nasty
so we just
fox,
talking like
go
that.
away.
I said, I wouldn't mind trying to date
You're
her.
not very nice.
Well, is this really, I mean, is this your girl? I mean,
Hey,
well, we've been out a couple of times, you know, and all this kind of thing. I said, I may just call and see if she'd like to go out. He said, won't do you any good. I've got her sewed up. And I said, oh, okay. So we bet something, I forget what it was, that I couldn't make a date with her. And I called her and talked to her on the phone, and he's standing right there.
My best
Well,
friend.
it was on a pay phone
Why do you
station,
want
you
her?
know.
She's my bestest friend.
I said, I'd like to come over and get better acquainted with you. And she said, well, okay, you know, anytime, I guess, you know. And she's kind of questioned me. And I said, well, I think we could be good friends. And I said, one thing about it, I need a lot of friends down here. I don't know anybody. And she says, where are you from? I said, I'm from Oklahoma. Okay. Well, you probably want to get acquainted with a lot of people. And I said, well, I'm trying.
Better not.
Guys around me here and all that, you know, trying to make friends. And she says, yeah, if you want to come and we'll sit on the porch and talk and, you know, everything. I said, okay.
Hey, Fox.
So I did, and
Her face, right? Always
she
want
introduced me to the lady that owned the house, Mrs.
do whatever you want to the back of my
uh,
head.
I can't even remember her name now, but she was really a nice woman.
Silly.
And
There's better
then she
things than
introduced me,
that.
took me down. They had a downstairs apartment. It's a basement apartment. She took me down and introduced me to her mom, which I was kind of surprised, you know, because, I mean, this is my first time with, you know, talking to her. And I really, it just hit me right off, you know, that I really like her. You know, she just, there's something about her that just got to me, you know. I liked her, and I wanted to see her more, you know.
Hey, did you know
And,
there's a real fox on your back?
So I asked her, I said, well, you want to go down and get a
Let me see.
soda or a hamburger or something, you know, at
I
this
don't see one.
drive-in? And she said, no, let's just talk, you know, here on the porch. And I said, that's fine. So we
I
did.
guess a fox on my back.
And this lady come out, and like I say, and that was the woman that owned the place,
Oh, there's a
and
spider on
introduced
you.
me
There's
to
a
her.
spider on you.
And
Yeah, jump.
so she stayed out there a little while and talked, and seemed like a really nice lady.
Oh,
And
no, it's not a spider. It's
that's
just
the
a
way it
microphone.
started. And then I got back
It's
to
just a
camp,
stethoscope for when you.
and I had a real easy job. I had some rank when I got there, and so they gave me a
There is a real.
not automatic, but a job with taking
Her back.
up the distribution at headquarters
When was the last time you
twice
saw
a
the
day.
rest of your barnyard
And I
animals?
come down, and the officers in the group, you know, they had their boxes with their names on them, and I just go through there like a mailman, you know, boom, 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 put the mail in there. The first, the hardest thing is to staying awake, because I didn't have anything to do, you know, but just do that once,
I got him off. Here.
twice a day.
See her
And,
that? She knows how to say stethoscope.
So
That's pretty
I
good.
started calling
You're a
her,
pretty smart girl. You
and
know
I
that.
asked her, want to talk or do something or go to the show, or
We're
so
not
she
gonna
finds,
have
yeah,
no
we could go to the
foxes
show.
around.
And I said, okay. I said,
You want to check my heartbeat with the stethoscope?
they had a drive-in out on Dixie Highway, and I said, how about going to the Dixie drive-in? Because I went by that all the time when I went into town. Okay. So I went and picked her
Sounds
up,
like your heartbeat's playing a tune. What
and
is
we
that
went out
happy
to the
little
show.
Tune you're playing in there.
And in the meantime,
Is that song
I
called-
got acquainted with this tech sergeant, and he'd been in the Army. He was making a career out of the Army. And so I had been going with another girl
It sounds like
over on the next street from where she lived earlier. And so I took him with me one day, and I introduced him to her, to your grandma.
What happened to
And
my
I said,
girl?
I'm going to go over and pick this other girl up to be for second, you know. So I went over there, and
She might come back
I went up
someday.
and brought her out and introduced her. And this is my friend.
She's the
His
one
name
coming.
was Jim Racker, I believe it was. Anyway, he had some rank. He'd been in the service a lot longer than I had, and I had some rank. I was a sergeant. I think I was sergeant, and he was a tech sergeant. You know, was above my rank, and. So anyway, he started going with this girl. Every time I went in, he went in. He had a car, and I had a car. So we could taking different cars, you know. So they all got acquainted, you know. The four of us got pretty well acquainted, and we all liked each other. The girl that I introduced him to, she had a little boy. So we decided, after getting so close, and we had a lot of talking, that we decided that we want to get married. And I really fell for her this deep. I mean, I couldn't think of anything else. And we wrote letters every day, and I had a lot of time to write letters. And I'd get a letter from her, and I'd read it over and over and over, and then I'd fold it up nice and neat. I still got them.
Really?
Yeah, and I put them in, you know, put them in a safe place, and kept them. And she did the same with me, you know.
Should I get my blood now?
And so
I have one.
we decided to get married,
Can I just sleep on the couch
and so we
grab the
set the
keys
time.
first?
and she didn't want
They're just so.
she didn't want her mom to know. So the lady that owned the house, she consulted to her more than she did her mom. Told her that we were going to get married, and so the day we were going to get night, it was on a Saturday night.
Is this one a twin size or a full size?
Twin.
We had to go and get a blood test, and I took her to, we went to the doctor there in Louisville, and they took the blood out of it from us. And she said, well, I can get this back by 4 o'clock this afternoon, the blood test. And I said, that'd be great. So we wanted to get married tonight. He said, oh, you can't get married tonight. And I said, why? Well, in Kentucky, you got to wait 3 days after you have the blood test. Oh, man. Well, that kind of spoiled our plans. And then she said, well, if you want to get married tonight, I can, I tell you how to do it. I said, well, I don't want any crooked here. I don't want to get in trouble with the law or nothing like that. No, she said, you just go across the river to Indiana, and you can take the blood test the same day and get married the same day. Okay, that's where we go. So we come back and pick the blood test up at 4 o'clock. And then we messed around a while, and then finally we went over there. We took Jim, and the other girl's name was Pearl something, I can't remember the last name. And they were going to be our witnesses. And so he fell for Pearl, and she did him too, I think. And because when I went up, I had bought your grandma's ring, engagement ring, and I was going to give it to her.
Oh yeah.
And so he bought one too. And I said, you're really serious about this girl? And he said, yes, I am. I've been single too long. He was up around 30. I was 21. And so that night we got there. The 2 girls was at grandma's apartment, and I went in and talked to her mom, Rena Mae. She was a nice lady. And I told her what I intended, and I showed her the ring. And she said, well, that's sure nice. But said, Peggy's not in good health. And I said, she's not. What's the matter with her, Well, she didn't want to get married. I didn't want to. And I said, I will accept her, And so I gave her the ring, but I didn't think it was going to work. I figured her mom was going to take her out of it, but she didn't. And then we decided to get married a couple of weeks later, I think it was. And I had the other ring.
Are you happy now?
And
Very happy?
went to Justice of Peace.
Okay.
That was when we had the blood test and all that. So we got to Justice of Peace, and the guy, he brought his wife in to play the wedding march, and she could play the piano. She played the wedding march, and he says, we're going to join these 2 people, and blah, 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 And of course your heart's in the boom, 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 And so we got married.
Mm-hmm.
So we went after that. The 4 of us went to drive-in again, movie. And after that, I said, well, we might as well go get us a hotel room or something. And so we did. And we got up there, this hotel, and we were married. And I had to marriage license, I had it put in a white leather thing, and then enfolded.
Completely gone.
And the guy, he
I'm on Papa's girl.
didn't question my friend and his girl, and they wasn't married when they got the room. And but he questioned me because I was younger looking, my your grandma and me.
Mhm.
She was only 17 years old,
Yeah.
and I was 21. And so I said, well, we're married, and I whipped out that marriage license, and he looked at it, well, congratulations. Okay, that's all I need to know. And they gave us a room, and we went on to our room, and Jim and Pearl, they wasn't even questioned because they were older looking, so they didn't have any problem. They were the one that wasn't married.
Yeah.
They didn't say anything. Anyway,
This fox has got to get
so I went back to camp. The next day, we come up back, picked up the girls, and Jim, he said, well, I'm giving you guys
Okay, let's rebuild our
I'm giving you guys a honeymoon. So we went over to Indiana,
Okay, I got
and we was flying out through
all
Indiana.
right, I set those up. Let's
And,
get our animals put away.
So we're just really high with fun and everything, And went by this airport. I said, you ever fly on a plane? And he said, no, I haven't. I'd like to go. I said, okay. I said, Jim, pull in right over there at the
Oh
airport.
yeah, good idea.
He said, we're going to take an airplane trip. We'll always remember
He does.
on our wedding day. So I pulled over there. And the guy only had a Piper Cub, so he could only take one person at a once. So everybody took a flight, and I was the last one. I stayed up. And finally it come to my turn to go. And I climbed in and strapped up and everything. And the guy went up this couple, and there was a woman flyer that was given rides there also. And so she started doing flips and all that stuff. And he says, how would you like to do a flip? And I said, I guess so. So he just started flipping the plane. And I was holding onto the seat like this. I had a safety belt on,
Yeah.
I was holding on the seat. And he's doing all this flipping and everything. And so we got down and landed, and I got out. I was kind of dizzy. And so I got to the car, and your grandma said, well, I thought I was going to be a widow before we even got started.
Yeah.
Said, well, he seemed to me being a good flyer. He asked me if I wanted to do the flip. I said, it's okay with me if he wants to, so that's the reason we did it. So we went on for the whole day, and he showed us a good time, and then that night he took us to a club, and he ordered champagne, and he brought champagne in the ice down buckets, and he said, okay, this is on me, and he said, you guys order what you want. And so we ordered chicken dinner or something like that. And I used to have the receipt somewhere. I think it's in the one photo album. I can't find it. Your dad wants that one too, so I can't find it. I've been looking for it.
All those wedding photos.
And that receipt is in there where we had chicken dinner, and Jim and Pearl had a steak dinner. We didn't know the difference. I didn't, and because I hadn't been out, in cafes very much, and so your grandma saved all those receipts. We had them right there in the in this photo album. And then one of my friends I met down there, he was from Tulsa, and he went to the same school I did in Tulsa. And so
How about the
he had
bunnies and the owls?
gave us a dollar bill for a wedding present.
Did everybody get
And he wrote in there, he says, "This dollar is for aspirins and headaches," something like that, you know. So she also kept that, and that was in there too. But I don't know what happened to the photo. I'm still looking for it. Anyway, we got a lot of pictures in there when we first got married like that.
Where you going, man?
So I
All the animals
went
are
back to camp after
out.
we
Let's
had
go
our
get
day,
it.
and
Come on.
one guy in the office, in the headquarters office where I worked, he said, well, he had a house in back where he lived that he owned, and he said it's going to be empty right away if you want to rent it.
Yeah.
And I said, how much you want? And he said, $35 a month, you know. So I said, I'll take it. And he said, don't you want to go look at it? And I said, well, I'll take your word for it. How many rooms? He said, it's only got 2 rooms. It's got the kitchen and the living room and the bed in there. And I said, well, you know, I've only got 6 more weeks to go in the service, and I get discharged. So I said that'll be okay, you know. And I had a Chevrolet, 1941 Chevrolet,
Let's go.
and one of my guys, the guy from Tulsa,
Don't drive too far.
he and I went out in that car several times, you know, up to Louisville. And he came in one time, and I was sleeping in my bunk, and I was tired, had been training hard, and
She's going on.
he took my keys and took my car,
Get out.
and he hit a guy up, you know, right in the middle of Louisville. And the reason I know it was him, one of the guys in my outfit told me that he saw this guy, you know, and he said, that guy that comes here to see you, that's who had the car. I said, oh man.
She can see it. I kicked all
So I
over.
said something to him about it, and he denied
She
it.
doesn't get mad.
So I just let it go. And my car was smashed up in front. He came back and backed it in, you know, in the parking lot. And our barracks I was in, where I
I
slept,
think they're okay.
I looked down there and the car was backed
I
in.
think they're okay.
So I
but
went
you're-
down there to
you're
look
the
at it, and in
veterinarian.
the
You
front
can
of it
fix
was
them.
all bashed in.
You know
He
how
hit
to
that
fix them.
car
So
and
what's the
then
big
jumped
deal?
out and run, according to what the spectators told me.
So then what does it matter?
So
Ooh.
that wasn't too good. So I had to get it fixed, and I didn't really have the money to have it fixed like that. I didn't have any. Yeah, I did have insurance. That's right, because you couldn't bring it on the post. So I guess it was the insurance, and I had to pay some of it. You know, that's what it was. Yeah, to get it fixed. And they had a garage out close to where Fortune Knox was, and that's where I had it fixed. You know, so.
Hey,
Anyway,
what do you know? See, I told you I didn't take.
we stayed in that apartment till I got discharged,
You gotta believe me, I didn't. Take
and
it
then
for long
we
walk.
caught the bus. I can't remember what I did with that car. I guess I must have sold it
She's gone now.
somebody
I want everybody to learn
or
your
something,
alphabet.
but I didn't have it when I got discharged.
E,
And we caught the Greyhound bus to Tulsa, and we went up to Louisville and went to her mom's and talked to her, and she was pretty sad because I was taking her daughter. I felt real bad about it, you know. I didn't know what else I knew. And then I went to her dad, and her dad had remarried, and this lady, Anna B. and talked to him. He was a character. I liked him. I went in there and he says he was still in bed because he drove a city bus, and he worked the late shift that night, so he was still in bed. And he said, "Ed," I said, "Well, yeah, Jack." He said, "Take off your pants and get in bed." See, that's his way of telling you, you know, he likes you, you know. I said, "No, I don't believe I want to do that, Jack." I said, I'm just here, just fine. We just want to come by and say bye for a while. But whenever you want to see your daughter, you just call me, and I'll bring her home. You know, I said, I don't care when it is. You want to see your daughter, you just call me. I knew he wouldn't do that, you know, but I had to say something, you know. It's kind of sad taking her away. But we were very much in love. Always was. It was just love the first time we saw each other. We had a lot of dates before we got married. You know, I didn't talk about it because they were just regular dates, you know. We just went out and go out and have something to eat or go to a movie or something like that.
Move these animals to the next house down the road.
But that lady in the boarding house, she didn't tell her mom that she was married, and she did talk to the lady there because they were good friends.
Listen, Mr. Fox.
She told her that we'd gotten married Saturday night.
All right.
So she says, "Well, you need to tell your mama you won't be you'll be leaving." I said, "Yeah." She said, "Yeah, I'm going to be leaving. I'm going to Oklahoma."
Take care of everybody here. All right.
Before we got married, when I called home and told my mother I was thinking about getting married, and she said, "Oh, no." I told her, I said, "Well, you know, I'm 21 years old." I said, "Most people get married when they get that old." And she said, "Well, who's the girl?" And I said, "There's a girl here in Louisville, and I want you and my dad to meet her." And so she said, "Okay." So about another day or two went by, and she called me and she said, "We're coming down there." I said, "How you coming?" And he said, "On the bus." So I told him I'd meet him. I had the car down there then, you know. So I told him I'd meet him. And I did. I picked him up at the bus station there in Louisville and took him out to her house. And and they got to meet my fiance. That was your grandma. And Mrs. Her mother were very nice. I sure liked her. She was she was a quite talking person. Kind of had a little bit of southern accent. She was a nice lady. And her father was a little bit different. He had a bad temper. You know. He never wanted to get him mad, and we've been married all that time, and him and I never had a quarrel word at all between us.
Good.
All that time. Yeah. And we took a lot of vacations down there. Every year I took her down and take her home. She got to see her mother and dad, and people that she knew, her aunts, uncles, cousins, and all that, you know. I didn't have anybody there, just her. First, it's hard to get acquainted with a family, you know. But, they started accepting me. They got to know me better, and they were starting to accept me, you know. There was one guy there. He was more my age, and he was married to your grandfather's sister, mom's sisters. Yeah. So I kind of made up with him. He and I talked more about things that we were interested in. You know, he was that kind of. He worked at DuPont there in Louisville. And, so we become very good friends. You know, I really liked him. And she had some good uncles too. I liked, but I just slowly fit into the family because we lived in Tulsa. You know, we didn't see them all the time. You know, just once a year. I always enjoyed there. They always treated us just like tops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were really good to treat us real good. But we made the marriage last all those years. I wish it could have lasted another 60 years, because she knew me so well that she could just about tell if something bothered me, or she knew exactly. She could read my mind.
Yeah.
Your grandma was a great person. She was. You remember her, right?
Mhm.
You know, you wasn't that
Yeah.
young. I know you remember. Yeah. Well, she's been dead now 9 years, I
years,
guess.
yeah.
Let's see, it's 2008. She died in November I believe it was November my goodness, that number's already slipped. I think it was
It was like November 7th or something, because her funeral was on my birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so her
well,
funeral was November 14th, so it was probably like a week before that.
Yeah, because she was sick, and I had been up with her several nights, and, well, more or less. You know, I slept too, but she'd wake me up and ask me to help her into the toilet. And so she seemed to be straightened out pretty good. So November the 11th was Veterans Day. And I always went down to the American Legion and had dinner down there, you know. And she never went with me. She always stayed home because I'd go over and get Larry, and he and I would go to the parade. They always have a parade, you know, there in Tulsa. And then we'd go over to the American Legion for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all furnished by the American Legion. And I wanted to go that day, but I was going to stay home. And she said, "No, I'm fine. I'll be okay. You go ahead. I want you to go." I said, "Okay." So I did. And then she died just a day or two after that. And she was supposed to go to the doctor that day, but she wouldn't tell me because she wanted me to go to that parade. I found out later. She said, "Well, I was supposed to go to the doctor." "Well, why didn't you tell me, Peggy?" "Well, I wanted you to go. I wanted you to go to that, you know, to your Veterans Day." And she always puts me first. I just really lucked out on getting her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody liked her. Yeah, she was just a wonderful person. And her mom was great, and her family was great. I figured I was very fortunate to get her, because I don't know, it just fit together, you know, how that goes. And that's what'll happen when you find the person you want to, you know, right at first you're not maybe in love. She's just a little attraction. There's something there, though.
Mm-hmm.
The longer you know them and go out with them and all that, it grows. that will happen to everybody. Just pretty much everybody. And that's the one that you'll always remember, no matter what happens to him.
Yeah.
You know, you'll always remember. You're like, I remarried because I needed the extra income that this lady can give me to survive where I'm at, you know, because I couldn't have handled all the bills by myself, you know, because I just didn't get enough money. And that lady has provided that. We've been married about 7 years. She's provided all that. And she has a fondness for me, and she says it's love, and I would have some degree, you know. And I can't say I don't love her or something, but I probably do some, but it's not like my first wife. No, that love was there. You couldn't change that. I would have went to do anything for her, and she would have done anything for me. I really lost a partner. It really hurt. And that's what you can do about it, you know. That's just the way it is. And the boys, they really miss their mother, you know, they really do. She was a smart one in our family. You know, I mean, I could do certain things with the kids for really being smart decisions. She was the one. And they took it real serious. They'd ask her, you know, about certain things, and she'd give them her opinion. And then it was always good, you know. Some of it I didn't follow, and I'd get in trouble sometimes, you know. But I sure miss her. She's one of the best.